Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar, Rover Project Enhancements V530. Posting accounts reflect the range tax parameter, add-ons update when changing group rates, and more. Presented by Stay in Touch implementation consultant Galen Coles. I'm your host, Erin Fisher, the content writer here at Stay in Touch. Today's presentation will cover how you can get the most out of Rover V530 product release. In this webinar, we will discuss how posting accounts now consider date range tax parameter, review how add-ons now update when changing rates on groups, discover AR aging report and complementary rooms report added to scheduled reports, explore new Zest web language translations, and discuss the addition of the GOBD admin charge code actions export for German. We will have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we will answer them in the order they're received at the end. And that's all I have right now. Galen, I'm going to hand the presentation over to you.
Wonderful, thanks so much. It's great to be with you this morning, everybody. Let me get my screen shared here. Okay. So the first thing that we'll be going over today is the addition of tax date ranges applicable to our posting accounts. So what that means is that if we take a look back here into our settings area within financials and charge codes, and we pull up one of our tax rates that we have built, you're able to apply date range parameters that allow for a change or a scheduled change in your tax rate when it's associated with a particular charge code. So over this particular period that we've selected, the tax rate you'll see will increase from 14% standard to a 25% over this duration. So the change in that is that within accounts, you'll now see that reflected in the posting parameters. So if we go into our, into our account here, and we go to then add a charge, and we'll go ahead and add a room charge. In this case, you'd go ahead and see that when the transaction has been posted, you're now seeing that 25% tax rate applicable over those current dates that that parameter was set for. So that will allow you to make sure that your taxes are posting accurately, both in transient reservations as well as in accounts and posting masters. So moving on from taxes on accounts, we've got changes in the way that add-ons will be reflected within groups. So when you create your add-ons, you can go ahead and associate some sort of an inventory. So that inventory will now be reflected or show an alert when you've applied add-ons to a group beyond the inventory limit. So as you can see here, we've got an add-on in place of a champagne in room for this particular group. In the event that we were adding this initially to the group, if there were more rooms blocked into the group or more reservations on the books in this group than was allocated to the inventory of this particular add-on, then you will see both this message letting you know that there are more reservations than are allotted inventory for this particular item, as well as there will be a pop-up that you'll see similar to this example here. When you change the rate of a group, you'll now, if in the change the add-on has exceeded its limit, you'll see this pop up as well, just indicating that you have exceeded it, and so you may need to add inventory to that particular add-on, or you just want to be cognizant that it won't be available to all of your guests. Okay, so from there, we can jump into kind of the biggest portion of this session, which is the Zest translations. So Zest, our Zest web, our mobile check-in, check-out functionality allows for a guest to do all those functions on their phone. What you're able to do now is add translations, where before we only had one language as a default. You can go into the back end, toggling on a few features within Zest. And now you've got this translations option that allows you to go ahead and update the languages available to each guest as they checked in. So as you can see here in these examples, when a guest first initiates the the engagement with the Zest Web email that they receive and begins that check-in flow, they'll be able to go ahead and select from a list of languages that you've gone ahead and curated for your particular property. Moving forward, then that is the language that will default throughout the process. You are able to go ahead and initiate this by contacting either your customer success manager or your support, or using our support portal. In either case, they'll be able to go ahead and get the ball rolling on initiating this process for you. Right, so the last couple of things that we'll be going over today are going to be some additions to our automated report scheduler. Pardon me. So we have 2 reports that have been added to the scheduler. So within our reports schedule a report area, you'll be able to now, when selecting a new report, use both the AR aging as well as the complementary rooms report. So you'll see, of course, in both of these that you've got various selections for your parameters of the report you want to look at. Of course, you'll be able to then set up your unique cadence for having it sent to you. So whether you want to have that sent on an hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly basis, whether you want to send that for just a particular period of time or have that end after a certain number of sends. And then, of course, you're going to be able to select a customized delivery method, either email or any of these others. Similar, here you've got the complementary room report, and this will allow you to, again, go ahead and set up your unique parameters for running this report. You can then schedule that, and again, email it or export it via any of these methods. Now, something to notice that when you've scheduled any of our reports, but these inclusive, you are able to then go ahead and update how those display without having to rerun the entire report. So you can always come back to a report that's been run and update those settings if you needed to without having to reinvent the report, essentially. Okay, so the last item that we have today is going to be the addition of our export for our German customers. So within our scheduled exports, you're able to go into new export here. And now we've got this GOBD admin charge code. What this will include is it's essentially a change log, which will include the updates and edits to charge code actions, as well as the creation or the deletion of a charge code. So you'll now be able to track very specifically when and who and at what point and the change that was made to all of your charge codes. All right, and that does bring us to the end of today's additions. So I'll pass it back to you, Erin.
All right, thank you, Galen. So now I'll open the floor for questions. Remember, you can submit questions in the question box in the middle of the control panel. So I'll give everyone a couple seconds to enter those. All right, so the first one is from Mary Lou. Is there a custom report that can be run strictly for one particular room type?
That I may have to investigate a little bit further. Off the top of my head, I don't believe that you could run a custom report specific to just a single room type. We do have a report that is the production report that will provide you room type details. So if you wanted to see, ADR by room type on a certain day or over a particular period of time, you'd be able to pull that. Within our custom exports, you could pull up things like reservation information. And you could include room type in that as a data point within the set that you want to look at, but you wouldn't then be able to further drill down and select an individual room type from that. You could just look at all of the room types available. But as I said, there is also the, let's jump into reports here. There is also the daily production report, and this one will give you room type information. So you'll be able to see ADR, just summations of production into the various room types and so on. And that is exportable. So you would be able to, manipulate that via an Excel document if you needed to pare down and only present or show details for a particular room type.
Great, thank you. And Mary Lou, if, okay, I just saw your response. All right, so the next question is, can you have more than one tax rule set up at a time?
Yes, the simple answer is yes. So when we're looking in our financials and charge code area, let's jump back into that 8100 here. You are able to go ahead and either add additional parameters within this one rule, meaning that you could essentially associate this tax change only to a particular room type. Let's say if you've got a sort of room type that is for long stays only, so maybe there's a different tax rate for that over a particular period of time. But you can then also on the far right here, you'll see this sort of subtle plus sign. If you needed to, you could then add an additional date range. So say there's a tax rate here, you could add another date, you know, and apply that unique tax range for that particular, or tax rate for that particular date range. And you can add as many of those as you need. So you're able to schedule quite far out.
Great, thank you. And then when can we begin using the new scheduled reports?
So although this is a test hotel, these scheduled reports are live in all of your systems. So you are welcome to begin using those as of today.
All right, thank you. And then next is, will other reports get added to the report scheduler?
So that's a sort of nuanced answer. The general is, of course, we're absolutely looking to constantly add more to our scheduled reporting. That said, I would definitely recommend that you create feature requests for any of those reports that are particularly interesting to you for the scheduling or to be on the scheduling. We definitely look at those feature requests as guidance from you as our clients as to what you find most valuable. So if you have a particular report that you'd like to have included in this that is not, definitely go ahead and open up a feature request in the support portal, and that will definitely help move that up in the list. So we'll constantly add more here, although I can't speak to exactly which reports are next in line, but the feature requests definitely help move whichever report you're most interested in to the front of that line.
Great, and I'm not seeing any other questions right now. I'll give everyone a few more seconds to enter those. All right, since there are no more questions, I'd like to take the floor to offer some final thoughts. So today we discussed how posting accounts now consider date range tax parameter, reviewed how add-ons now update when changing rates on groups, discovered AR aging report and complementary rooms report added to the scheduled reports, explored new Zest web language translations, and discussed the addition of GOBD admin charge code actions report export for Germany. With that, I'd like to conclude our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me at aaron.fisher@stayintouch.com. Thanks again.
Thank you all.